Hello everyone, welcome back to Sci-Fi Read Aloud. We're going to continue through Chapter 20 of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. We returned through the forest and completed our collection by a raid upon the cabbage palms that we gathered from the tops of the trees, little beans that I recognized as the A-brow of the Malays, and yams of a superior quality. We were loaded when we reached the boat, but Ned Land did not find his provisions sufficient. Fate, however, favored us. Just as we were pushing off, he perceived several trees from 25 to 30 feet high, a species of palm tree. These trees, as valuable as the artocarpus, justly are reckoned among the most useful products of Malaya. At last, at 5 o'clock in the evening, loaded with our riches, we quitted the shore, and half an hour after we hailed that Nautilus. No one appeared on our arrival. The enormous iron-plated cylinder seemed deserted. The provisions embarked, I descended to my chamber, and after supper slept soundly. The next day, January 6th, nothing new on board, not a sound inside, not a sign of life. The boat rested along the edge, in the same place that we had left it. We resolved to return to the island. Ned Land hoped to be more fortunate than on the day before with regard to the hunt, and wished to visit another part of the forest. At dawn, we set off. The boat, carried on by the waves that flowed to shore, reached the island in a few minutes. We landed, and thinking it was better to give in to the Canadian, we followed Ned Land, whose long limbs threatened to distance us. He wound up the coast toward the west, then, fording some torrents, he gained the high plain that was bordered with admirable forests. Some kingfishers were rambling along the water's courses, but they would not let themselves be approached. Their circumspection proved to me that these birds knew what to expect from bipeds of our species, and I concluded that, if the island was not inhabited, at least human beings occasionally frequented it. After crossing a rather large prairie, we arrived at the skirts of a little wood that was enlivened by the songs and flight of a large number of birds. "There are only birds," said Conseil. "But they are not eatable," replied the harpooner. "I do not agree with you, friend Ned, for I see only parrots there." "Friend Conseil," said Ned gravely, "the parrot is like a pheasant to those who have nothing else." And I added, "This bird, suitably prepared, is worth knife and fork." Indeed, under the thick foliage of this wood, a world of parrots were flying from branch to branch. Only needing a careful education to speak the human language. For the moment, they were chattering with parrots of all colors and grave cockatoos who seemed to meditate upon some philosophical problem, while brilliant red lories passed like a piece of bunting carried away by the breeze. Papuans with the finest azure colors, and in all variety of winged things, most charming to behold, but few eatable. However, a bird peculiar to these lands, and which has never passed the limits of the Aru and Papuan Islands, was wanting in this collection. But fortune reserved it for me before long. After passing through a moderately thick copse, we found a plain obstructed with bushes. I saw then those magnificent birds, the disposition of whose long feathers obliges them to fly against the wind. Their undulating flight, graceful aerial curves, and the shading of their colors, attracted and charmed one's looks. I had no trouble in recognizing them. "Birds of paradise!" I exclaimed. The Malays, who carry on a great trade in these birds with the Chinese, have several means that we could not employ for taking them. Sometimes they put snares at the top of high trees that the birds of paradise prefer to frequent. Sometimes they catch them with a viscous bird lime that paralyzes their movements. They even go so far as to poison the fountain the birds generally drink from. But we were obliged to fire at them during flight, which gave us few chances to bring them down, and indeed we vainly exhausted one half of our ammunition. About 11 o'clock in the morning, the first range of mountains that formed the center of the island was traversed, and we had killed nothing. Hunger drove us on. These hunters had relied on the products of the chase, and they were wrong. Happily, Conseil, to his great surprise, made a double shot and secured breakfast. He brought down a white pigeon and a wood pigeon, which, cleverly plucked and suspended from a skewer, were roasted before the red fire of dead wood. While those interesting birds were cooking, Ned prepared the fruit of the Arctocarpus. Then the wood pigeons were devoured to the bone and declared excellent. The nutmeg, with which they were in the habit of stuffing their crops, flavors the flesh and renders it delicious eating. Now, Ned, what do you miss now? Some four-footed game, Monsieur Aronnax. All these pigeons are only side dishes and trifles, and until I have killed an animal with cutlets, I shall not be content. Nor I, Ned, if I do not catch a bird of paradise. Let us continue hunting, replied Conseil. Let us go toward the sea. We have arrived at the first declivities of the mountains, and I think we had better regain the region of forests. Thank you, everybody. We'll be back to conclude Chapter 20 tomorrow.